Okay, here we go.
Think of the perfect getaway. A beautiful tropical island, waves crashing onto the sand, the horn of a cruise ship, the nearby hustle and bustle of a town center, the engine of an airplane flying above, the shouts and screams of a basketball game. Imagine the ideal summer paradise. That paradise does not exist in the real world. That paradise is Wuhu Island, a bunch of polygons. What, did you think I was talking about a real-life resort? Of course not. The outside has weird things like bugs and vitamin D. Ew, no thanks. I believe that this island is one of the most immersive locations in Nintendo history, arguably more than legacy-defining places like Hyrule and the Kanto region. I know some of you are like, how, it's just an island? And I say, don't be stupid, it's not just an island. No, it's a lifestyle. Not really. But I feel like this island doesn't get enough love and recognition that it deserves. Even though the setting has not been around for nearly as long as other iconic locations, I believe it's just as rich in detail and lore. Wuhu Island holds a special place in my heart, and I want to convince you that it should be recognized as one of Nintendo's staple locations. Wuhu Island has appeared in quite a few games, more than I expected. The first official appearance was all the way back in Wii Fit in 2008. Remember that running minigame where you totally didn't faceplant 50 times? Apparently, you were running on Wuhu Island. Yeah, I was pretty surprised when I discovered that. Kinda suspicious that they devoted all that development to a place only to utilize it for one mode. I'm glad that they were able to fully utilize this island later on, or else that would have been a huge waste of resources. Luckily, they weren't that wasteful because they were planning to utilize this island in the future, and fully utilize they did. Quite the upgrade, might I add. Everyone please give a warm welcome to Wii Sports Resort, the game that proudly shows off what this island truly has to offer. I really wish the general population was more familiar with this game as much as the original Wii Sports. On top of being a more complete and fun game, every sport takes place pretty much on this one island. Table tennis takes place by the pool, frisbee takes place at the beach, sword fighting takes place at the arena, and so on. Every single activity has its place on Wuhu Island. It gives each of them logical context and purpose around the island. Each activity takes space and, in turn, is accommodated for. This level of continuity is most comparable to Isle Delfino. Every level in that game had a tangible location that took up space on that island, and you could even see other levels in the distance from the current one that you're in. Wuhu Island follows that kind of contextual continuity as well. Each sport has a designated spot around the island, and although during most of the sports, you can't always see other locations in the background, one sport perfectly contextualizes all of these activities: the island flyover. Hands down, one of my favorite modes. Thankfully, I don't think I'm alone with that. Give me an interesting world full of secrets, trivia, and lore, and I will eat that up. I will explore everything. Breath of the Wild had me hooked for an actual year. And the wonderful part about this mode is that you can see exactly where these activities take place. Remember the pool? It's over there. The arena where you can do this? It's right here. The spot in the beach where you throw the frisbee? It's somewhere over there. You get the point. Another mode that also contextualizes this island is cycling. I feel like not many people care for this minigame, but I like it. Oh, so you're that player. Yes, I'm that player. Sometimes flailing the Wii Remote can actually be fun. Anyway, cycling has you touring around the island, but this time in a more familiar eye-level perspective. Without these two modes coexisting, Wuhu Island wouldn't feel nearly as immersive. They both give a sense of scale from an aerial view and also a third-person perspective. Without both, it would be much harder to contextualize where everything is. I know they're just bicycle paths, but they're all laid out in a way where none of the elements had to be compromised. I live for that continuity. Very few of Nintendo's locations are this consistent in layout and design. Sure, Mushroom Kingdom is very iconic, but where does everything go? I wouldn't be able to tell you. I don't know where Bowser's castle is. Dry Desert is somewhere in the world. Rainbow Road is wherever it wants to be. Nothing has a definitive location that you can pinpoint on a world's map. This is most likely intentional, so Mario can explore an infinite amount of locations without breaking any continuity, but in turn, it's difficult to imagine any connection between these places outside of the scope of their games. It's hard to believe that all these places belong in the same world. Hyrule at least has a lot more stable locations like Romani Ranch, Kakariko Village, Death Mountain, and of course Hyrule Castle, but the time period and atmosphere varies so much between games that there isn't really a definitive Hyrule for reference. It makes sense that the landscape would change over the span of centuries, but it doesn't change the fact that there are several vastly different versions of Hyrule. When someone says, "Oh, I love Hyrule," well, which version of Hyrule do you love? Because there is no definitive Hyrule. Whenever someone says they love Wuhu Island, you can automatically envision what it looks like. The volcano, the town, the beach. We all imagine the same island because of how consistent it's been throughout its appearances. Sure, consistency limits what can readily be changed, but do you really need to? The island is pretty small, but every space is intentional. For an island getaway, why change anything about it when it represents a paradise so well? Endless joy and celebration as an atmosphere might seem shallow, but that's how an island paradise should feel. No worries, no conflict, no stress. Sadly, Wii Sports Resort was when Nintendo was at their most ambitious. Well, they kinda had to in order to sell Wii Motion Plus. Portions of Wuhu Island were converted into racetracks in Mario Kart 7 and 8 Deluxe. The island flyover became its own little game with Pilot Wings Resort, and the island had a flying tour stage in Smash 4 and Ultimate. The closest they've gotten was ironically back to Wii Fit U, where you're running around town trying to find people. It was so close, but it just wasn't fleshed out enough. I guess people didn't care about it enough to be expanded, but I do, and I'm sure a bunch of other people do as well. Since I'm basically begging for them to bring back a fully realized Wuhu Island, what would I want to see? Okay, this is what my ideal game would be like, albeit very far-fetched. First off, don't be afraid to use the Miis again. I know it seems obvious when you think about it, but I can't be the only one who feels like Nintendo is underutilizing Miis during the Switch era. So part of me thinks that developers are reluctant to bring them back, but they're technically still part of the Switch, just tucked away in a corner. Miis are one of the underlying anchors of Wuhu Island. Without them, the resort would obviously be a lot more desolate and generic. But also, witnessing like Yoshi or Tingle on the island would just look out of place. Yes, even for Nintendo standards. Up until Wii Sports Resort, it never felt like Miis had a definitive location. Sure, they were in dozens of games, but nowhere that they could call home. We can allow them to claim this island as their own. Second, I want to explore all around the island. Please. No time limit. Breath of the Wild it up. I want an open Wuhu Island I can run around in. Make the story crazy. Make it stupid. Miis can be as absurd as they want and still be endearing. They've done it with Miitopia years later. Shout out to that game. They made a legit story with characters and settings. It was nonsensical, but Miis themselves are nonsensical, so it made sense. In my wildest dreams, I would want a full-on action adventure where you can finally explore the entire island on foot. I want to be able to go inside the buildings in Wuhu Town. Basically, I want to explore the island GTA style. They made all that effort to make landmarks that aren't even accessible in most of the minigames, so adding even more lore will definitely have me sold. It's definitely not gonna happen, but I can dream, right? No. Okay, rude. Realistically, I wouldn't know how Nintendo would top a game like Resort. They could make a sequel to the sequel, but I don't think it would have as much impact. You can only expand an island with sports so many times. That's why I would want them to make a dramatically different game, in order to reignite interest in this place. It would make me more excited to play on the island again. But at the same time, taking away the sports might feel like a part of its soul is missing. So maybe as a happy medium, you can explore the island freely and walk to certain locations to activate the minigames. Now that sounds a lot more feasible. Just imagine an open world Wuhu Island. How crazy that would be. With all of its Mii personality goodness, I would absolutely love that. Wuhu Island is definitely not the most bombastic Breath of the Wild lore-ridden place in all of Nintendo's history, but I stand by the fact that it's one of Nintendo's most immersive places. If it weren't for its continuity and vibrant atmosphere, Wuhu Island would have just been known as the island with the sports. Instead, it should be recognized as more than that. It's as much as a real island as the Bahamas or Hawaii. Everything has a meaningful place on the space. Every sport makes sense and exists in harmony with each other. You can feel the harmonious and carefree atmosphere of everything. Wuhu Island could literally be a resort in the real world. That's how robust the level design is. The island may not be memorable to most people, but like I said, it holds a special place in my heart. Behind Mario Party 4, obviously. Very few Nintendo locations are this consistent in theming and cohesion, so this island deserves another chance to shine. We can only hope that they can make it happen, but at least I can always fly around in Wii Sports Resort to experience the perfect paradise.